Good afternoon, and welcome to the 9th Annual Graduate School of Arts and Sciences Masters SynThesis Competition. So my name is Francesca Finelli, and I am the Interim Director of Graduate Career Development at GSAS Compass, the Office of Graduate and Professional Career Development, and I am your host for today's event. The day-to-day work of the GSAS Compass team mostly involves working with graduate students to identify and achieve their post-graduation career goals. We always begin our advising appointments by asking students the question, why did you decide to pursue a master's degree? Most express deep passion for a particular topic, unfulfilled curiosity after finishing their bachelor's, or, and sometimes a desire to conquer a new field. However, we rarely get to hear more about their research, and this is one of the reasons why our team loves this event. The Master's SynThesis competition allows students the opportunity to put their research and public speaking skills on full display and have their well-deserved moment in the spotlight. Thank you all, both finalists and audience members, for joining us this afternoon. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Dean Carlos J. Alonso, Morris A. and Alma Shapiro Professor in the Humanities, Dean of the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, and Vice President for Graduate Education. Dean Alonso will offer opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca. Good afternoon, and welcome to this celebration of 12 master's students who are sharing their research with us today. It is my great pleasure to open the 9th Annual Graduate School of Arts and Sciences Masters SynThesis competition. The thesis is the apex achievement of the master's student, where they apply the tools, methods, and modes of inquiry they have studied in their coursework to answer an original research question. And these 12 brave souls have taken on the extra challenge of distilling that research to its bare essence in a 3-minute presentation and using only one slide. This afternoon, we will hear talks about topics ranging from the history of ancient Egyptian papyri and to the best way to count hellbender salamanders, to the conflict between religion and citizenship in India, to robotic ethics. This SynThesis event embodies the graduate school's central aim: to provide our students with opportunities to thrive academically and professionally. We deeply appreciate the many MA program faculty and staff who support, advise, and encourage their students in their research. These nervous yet excited students would not be here without your commitment and support. I would also like to thank our panel of faculty and alumni judges who have volunteered for what will undoubtedly be a difficult but exciting job today. To the 12 finalists about to present, you represent the range and depth of graduate student research at Columbia. I know you have worked very hard to prepare for today, to bring your knowledge and your passion for your studies and share it with the general public. I am proud of and impressed with what you have accomplished today. The best of luck to all of you with your presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Alonso. I would like to welcome and introduce our faculty and alumni judges. So at the end, we have Brian Boyd, who is our senior lecturer and director of museum anthropology, co-director for the Center of Palestine Studies, and co-chair of the University Seminar on Human-Animal Studies. Thank you. Next, Lena Lilovic, program director for the master's degree in International and World History, and adjunct assistant professor of history. Next, we have Romy Silvercone, a 2008 GSAS MA graduate in Modern and Contemporary Art, Critical and Curatorial Studies, and now the co-editor of Inventing the Modern, Untold Stories of the Women Who Shaped the Museum of Modern Art. Thank you. And finally, thank you, Julia Kang-Reeves, a 1994 GSAS MA graduate in Classics, and now the Chief Marketing Officer at Earth Therapeutics. Thank you all so much for serving on the judges panel. So today's competition will begin shortly with presentations from 12 finalists. Please refer to your event program to see the order in which they will speak. Each finalist will present for only 3 minutes using one slide and no notes, unlike me, and will be evaluated on both the content of their presentation and their delivery. At the conclusion of the presentations, the judges' scores will be tallied and the winners will be announced. The top 3 presenters, according to our panel of judges, will be awarded prizes of $1,000, $500, and $250, respectively. Audience members, keep in mind, and those of you online as well, that your vote counts. Following the presentations, we will provide instructions to cast your vote for Audience Choice Awards in Best Slide, Best Communication, and Most Innovative. The voting form can be accessed by scanning the QR code on the back of the program and will be activated only after the presentations are concluded. And now, we will begin with our first presenter. Hakun Woon from Global Thought will present Why Vietnamese Diasporas Protest and Why They Often Don't Vote.
The year is 1999. In Orange County, California, thousands of Vietnamese Americans protested for 53 days because a shop owner had displayed a communist flag on front of his shop. Over 15,000 people out of a Vietnamese population of 140,000 took to the streets. And yet, Vietnamese Americans vote at surprisingly low rates. That paradox became the starting point of my thesis. So, to explore this problem, I combined political science theory, historical analysis, and voting data. Looking from the outside, the Vietnamese are a success story. They're highly educated and financially stable. In 2022, the household median income of Vietnamese was $81,000, higher than the national average at $75,000. However, in 2020, only 55% of Vietnamese voted in the election, compared to 67% nationally. So, what's going on? I argue that education and income alone cannot explain this. Instead, we must look to history. Many Vietnamese came to this country as refugees fleeing from war, instability, and authoritarianism. Many simply didn't have any experience voting in elections. This history makes the US political system seem foreign or inaccessible. Instead, protest has become the way for the Vietnamese to express their frustration. This tells us something important. The Vietnamese are politically conscious, just not in electoral terms. So why does this matter? We often assume that education and income will lead to integration. But that is only the case if political systems are open and understandable. For many Vietnamese, this just isn't the case. Instead, protest has become a substitute for voting. But protest is not the same as representation. Because you can protest without voting, but democracy needs both. If we want more inclusive democracies, we need to lower the barriers to participation. Not just for Vietnamese Americans, but for all immigrant communities around the world. Thank you.
Next up is Danny Pergola from Ecology, Evolution, and Conservation Biology presents Hidden Giants, Estimating Hellbender Populations with Artificial Nest Boxes.
Snot otter, lasagna lizard, devil dog. What do these names have in common? They're all nicknames for the eastern hellbender salamander, the largest amphibian in North America. Whatever you call it, the hellbender is an aquatic salamander that lives in clean, fast-flowing streams and can grow up to 2 feet in length. They're also what scientists call an indicator species, meaning they act as a canary in a coal mine and can tell scientists whether an environment is polluted or healthy based on how well they can survive there. They used to have large populations throughout the eastern US, but those numbers have plummeted by up to 80% in recent decades due to pollution and habitat destruction. Before we can protect hellbenders, we need to know how many are left. This is difficult, however, because they are a highly secretive animal and live under large, flat rocks that can be up to the size of a car hood. So for decades, scientists have been lifting giant rocks to locate and count the hellbenders underneath them. This is dangerous not just for the scientists, but also for the hellbenders, because rock lifting is disruptive to their nests and to their behavior. My project involves testing a new, safer, and less invasive method to keep an eye on hellbender populations. We created hundreds of concrete boxes that can be used as nests by hellbenders and installed 150 of them in 2 Pennsylvania waterways. These boxes weigh around 100 pounds each and have a removable lid so we can investigate the hellbenders inside without being so disruptive to the stream habitat. We checked our boxes 20 times over the course of 3 years, and when we found a new hellbender inside, we gave it a tiny tag like the ones we give to our cats and dogs. Imagine holding a slimy, wriggling, 2-foot-long bundle of muscles and dodging its attempts to bite you while trying to measure it and give it a tiny microchip. By tagging new hellbenders each time we surveyed and recapturing old ones, we were able to create an estimate of how many lived in each stream. We found our 2 study sites had 2 very different population sizes. One had around 38 adult hellbenders, while the other had around 66 adults in the same area of stream habitat. We also compared the lengths of the hellbenders we found in our nest boxes to a previous study done in the same area that used those traditional rock lifting surveys, and we found that there was no significant difference in the size of hellbenders captured by the 2 methods. This means that the nest boxes capture an equivalent sample to those rock lifting surveys without being so invasive and dangerous to researchers and animals. This is the first study that uses non-invasive methods to estimate hellbender populations. This is crucial information for conservation, providing a new tool for researchers and wildlife managers to keep an eye on these animals and make informed decisions about their protection. But it's not just about the salamanders. Knowing how many hellbenders live in a stream also tells us how healthy it is, and whether it's good for things like fishing, swimming, or even if it can be used as drinking water without much treatment. Healthy hellbenders mean a healthier environment for people too. Thank you.
Next is Catherine Stitt from Classical Studies, presents The Life Cycle of an Archive, the Archive of Aurelius Sakayon.
Have you ever wondered what it was like to live in ancient Egypt, especially during the Roman period, or what the society was like, especially for women? My thesis covers the Archive of Aurelius Sakayon, a volume of papyri from Philadelphia from the mid-3rd to early 4th centuries CE. These papyri revolve around the activities of a man named Aurelius Sakayon and those of his family. My thesis discusses the life cycle of this archive and asks how the archive has been used as a scholarly source, first through the lens of book reviews. But I found that these book reviews tended to focus more so on the archive as with issues of editing or dating, rather than treating it as a work of papyri. Therefore, I ask the questions: what kind of social histories do these papyri present, and what can this archive teach us otherwise? Sakaon himself was an important landowner in Philadelphia and the head of his household, as many of the tax receipts and records otherwise prove in the archive. But the papyri also preserve legal cases, some of the most interesting discussing a woman and widow named Aurelia Artemis. Typically during this period, when a woman would petition the courts, a male representative would be assigned to her. But Artemis is recorded as multiple times representing herself, or even once hiring a solicitor purposefully. There are also two more, a bit more scandalous occasions that showcase what kind of power or status a woman could hold during this time. These are occasions when Sakaon's family would kidnap their own female relatives who had married into another family in order to bring them back into the household. On the first occasion, it was Sakaon's own daughter, Tawaz, from his first wife, and allegedly, his second wife even orchestrated the event. On the second occasion, it was a more distant relative named Nona. And interestingly, her mother, Anus, orchestrated and physically participated in the kidnapping. But unfortunately, the questions we can ask of this archive are limited, as upon their discovery, the papyri were torn apart and circulated on a black market for ancient artifacts known as the antiquities market. It makes these physical traces, these papyri themselves, even more important. And they prove that it is imperative to ask questions of everything, even a microhistory from a small village in decline, as was the case in Philadelphia, if we want to reach a true understanding of our ancient history. Thank you.
Peter Silverstein from Quantitative Methods in the Social Sciences will share Evaluating Rapid Ride Bus Reliability in Seattle, Washington using Bayesian Additive Regression Trees.
What's more frustrating than being late to an appointment or event because your bus or train was running late? Not much. A bus being a few minutes early or late can be the difference between being on time to where you're going and being like 15 to 20 minutes late, especially if you have to make a transfer. So prior research tells us that bus reliability is among the highest valued attributes that a mass transit system has, and that even small changes in system-wide reliability can have a really big impact on somebody's ability to get where they're going within the system. So I'm from Seattle, which is a city that relies heavily on bus service for its mass transit. And buses compete with cars and other traffic on the road, which generally makes them more unreliable. So in an effort to combat this, Seattle has implemented the Rapid Ride program, which is a set of upgrades applied to existing bus routes designed to increase reliability, decrease wait times, and speed up travel. And the way it does this is by decreasing passenger boarding times, managing the distance between buses on a given route to make sure that they don't bunch up, and also like giving them priority within an intersection so the bus can go before the cars. But does this work? So specifically, my research question is whether the Rapid Ride upgrade improves reliability for the routes that it tries to upgrade. But we have a problem, which is that some routes are Rapid Ride and some routes are not Rapid Ride, but none are both. So we don't really have a good like apples to apples comparison. Instead, I chose to go with a modeling approach. So I collected data over about 2 months of real-time arrivals across the city on both Rapid Ride and non-Rapid Ride routes. I defined reliability as the number of seconds that a bus deviates from its scheduled arrival time, and I modeled reliability as a function of whether the route was Rapid Ride or not, alongside a number of other variables that predict reliability performance, like traffic at the time and place that the bus was running. So what this allows me to do is get an idea of the marginal effect of the Rapid Ride treatment. That is, given a route and we add rapid ride, how does that affect the reliability? And it turns out that it improves it by about 30 to 90 seconds on average. So if you think about it, every time you take the subway, you have to wait on the platform a minute less. Like, that's a win, that adds up, that's a success. Fundamentally, mass transit is about connecting people to a city and all of the opportunities for jobs and recreation that it holds. So access to reliable mass transit is a social justice issue, a matter of equity, and of course, important for the environment. My goal with my research is to provide policymakers tools to help them find better opportunities to upgrade service and get people where they want to go in a more reliable and consistent fashion. Thank you.
Isabel Goslin from Human Rights Studies presents Women as Architects of Peace, examining the role of female mediators in conflict resolution and peace building.
Good afternoon. My name is Isabel. As you heard, I'm an MA in Human Rights Studies student with a focus in conflict resolution and peace building, and I'll be presenting on the role of female mediators in Colombia and Northern Ireland. So the basis of my project focused on one central question: what happens when women are the one at the table mediating the peace? I was reading all the literature for this project and noticed women have a role, but it's usually after the conflict has happened, you know, sustaining the peace, rebuilding the trust, rebuilding the communities. And I really wanted to see, like, okay, yeah, but what happens when they actually are the ones making the difference? So I focused on two cases, as you can see, with Colombia and Northern Ireland. And in Colombia, they were given a space. During the peace negotiations between the government and the FARC, they were given a space during the gender subcommission, which allowed them to add inclusive language to their gender building, or to their peace negotiations, sorry. And in Northern Ireland, they had to create their own space through the Northern Ireland Women's Coalition. They did this by creating like a cross-community grassroots organization that went in and helped re-establish the definition of peace in Northern Ireland. So the way I view it is women need to be at these tables. They need to make this peace. They need to be put in these situations because we need peace to be durable. We've seen it in multiple conflicts throughout the world where peace lasts a couple months, lasts a couple years, but there's nothing sustainable. So one thing my project makes unmistakably clear is women need to be in these positions. Thank you.
Alona Strush from Russia, Eurasia, and Eastern Europe, Regional Studies, will present Exile and Engagement, the role of host states in Russian migrants' political behavior.
Let me illustrate my research puzzle through two short stories. When Stepan left Russia for Georgia in September 2022, he didn't sleep for 5 days. Stuck at the border, he faced chaos and violence amid the panic caused by the partial mobilization order. Once a PhD student, he now works remotely from Tbilisi and avoids politics because he fears repercussions. Marina left Russia a month later, traveling to Lithuania, where she asked for asylum. She hadn't really been politically active before, but in Vilnius, she became deeply engaged, even organizing anti-war marches herself. These contrasting accounts form my research question. What explains variation in political engagement among migrants who fled the same war? I study Russian migrants who left the country after the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. It's a unique and timely group shaped by conflict and repression. I argue that their political engagement is shaped by host state policies, which I divide into two groups. Number one, entry policies determine who gets in. Number two, settlement policies govern how long migrants can stay, what economic opportunities they have, and what political networks they can tap into. These policies not only shape the characteristics of a migrant community, they also enable or constrain opportunities for political behavior. For my research, I traveled to two very different host countries, Lithuania and Georgia. Oh, the other way around, sorry. And I interviewed 30 Russian migrants there. I complement this interview data with legal analysis to show how policy translates into lived experience. Here's what I found. In Lithuania, strict entry policies form a tight-knit, politically active community that engages despite bureaucratic hardship. In Georgia, open entry policies and economic flexibility attract a broader range of migrants, but political engagement remains low due to social hostility and political instability. This research matters because it shifts the way we think about migrant political behavior. It's not just about personal histories or war. It's also about host state institutions. In a world shaped by authoritarianism and forced migration, host states are not just passive backdrops. They shape how migrants live and engage and adapt, and whether they raise their voices. Thank you for your attention.
Joa Yuen Chen from Economics presents, How did Germany's medical reform in the late 1990s impact German people's health and economic conditions?
Have you ever wished that you could get fast, affordable healthcare in America? If so, you will be interested in how Germany built one of the world's most effective healthcare systems. Today, German citizens still enjoy one of the highest life expectancies in the world. Therefore, understanding the development of such an efficient system can be meaningful. Before Germany was reunified in 1990, Western Germany's healthcare system was mostly privately owned, while Eastern Germany's was publicly financed. In the late 1990s, newly unified Germany implemented major reforms to merge and marketize the system, giving individuals more choices and changing how medical services were funded and accessed. My research examines how this shift impacted two key areas: health conditions, measured by the number of doctor visits, and household economic conditions, measured by monthly gross income. I used a statistical method called regression discontinuity design, which estimates the policy effects by comparing those affected by the policy with those who are not. I also applied a fixed effects model, which is designed for analyzing data collected over different time periods. I also used a publicly available data set that tracks German citizens' household income and doctor visits over time by controlling factors like age, education, and original health status. I ran my models in Stata. My results indicate that after the reform, German citizens visited doctors 0.62 fewer times every 3 months, a modest but noticeable decline. However, there was a significant impact on household income. Earnings fell, particularly amongst women. On average, each German household experienced a reduction of 252 marks in monthly gross income. Overall, the reform slightly improved health conditions and encouraged people to invest more in their health. People even became more selective in choosing medical services. However, though the system became more efficient, it still placed a financial burden on women. These findings highlight the trade-offs in healthcare marketization and can also help inform policymakers worldwide as they seek to balance access, affordability, and financial sustainability in building healthcare systems. Thank you very much.
Kirill Shabalin from South Asian Studies presents, What did India's political parties say about citizenship in 2019?
Close your eyes. Imagine you live in a country where the political party in power undermines civic values and challenges the very idea of who belongs to the nation. In this situation, you might wonder, how did things get this way? And why can't opposition parties stop it? What I've asked you to imagine has been unfolding in India since the Bharatiya Janata Party, also known as the BJP, came into power in 2014. Its rule has been marked by crackdowns on civil society and the erosion of secular institutions. A telling example is the Citizenship Amendment Bill of 2019. It offered fast-track naturalization to non-Muslim refugees from Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. It practically excluded the largest non-Hindu community on the subcontinent from the right to get Indian citizenship. The bill triggered widespread discontent, with many opposition parties challenging it. In my research, I investigate parliamentary debates on the bill to understand how the BJP and its opposition framed the very meaning of citizenship. Drawing from history, political philosophy, and critical theory, my study reveals that these debates were far more complex than it has been suggested. It has been argued that the BJP openly advanced religious nationalism, while the opposition stood for liberal values. In reality, the BJP masked its agenda in liberal terms, claiming to protect religious refugees from persecution and torture. This made them sound like champions of human rights, so long as those rights did not extend to Muslims. At the same time, in its defense of secularism, some opposition parties partly reinforced the very logic of the BJP. Instead of calling for unconditional withdrawal of the bill, they argued that this protection should also include Hindus from Bhutan and Tamils from Sri Lanka. To be honest, I'm very modest about my research because I haven't made any groundbreaking discoveries. I just offered another perspective on a problem. This said, I also drew attention to the need of critical examination of how right-wing parties obscure their true motives and why opposition responses often fall short. Thank you.
Teresa Mondria Terol from Quantitative Methods in the Social Sciences will share, "You only get one chance to make a good impression, the key to reader retention in local journalism."
The most important element that keeps local journalism alive is its audience. And yet, less than 15% of people who visit their local newspaper for the first time come back in the future. How can we help local publishers solve this problem? As a journalist by training myself, I deeply believe that local newsrooms are vital for their communities. But without returning readers, they struggle to build audiences and sustain themselves. Researchers have studied this topic of audience behavior focusing on major news organizations, but local newspapers face their own unique challenges, so my research addresses this gap. I analyzed over 30,000 first-time visits to a local newspaper website over 11 months. I looked at everything people do in that first visit: how many articles they read, how long they stay, how far they scroll, and whether they're coming from Google, social media, another platform, among many other metrics. And to understand all this data, I used predictive models. The way these models work is they learn from past events, first visits, and identify patterns in the data to predict which behaviors are most strongly associated with people returning to the site in a week. What did I find? That the strongest predictor is the number of stories people read. In fact, people who read only more than 2 stories are already twice as likely to return than those who just read 1. But why does this metric matter? First, it challenges conventional wisdom in the academic field that the time spent in the site is the key to build audience loyalty. For new visitors, exploring different stories might matter more because they feel there's more content waiting for them after that first article draws them in. Second, in this project, I worked directly with local publishers to ensure that research results were actionable with very simple site improvements. In this case, helping readers discover just one more story can already improve retention rates. And lastly, the significance goes beyond journalism and academia. We live in a moment where 85% of Americans say local journalism is important for their community's well-being. And studies have shown that areas with declining local coverage experience less voter turnout. So when local newspapers can better engage with their audiences, society has a whole benefit. By truly understanding what brings readers back, we can help local journalism keep their communities informed and engaged, one more story at a time. Thank you.
Emanuela Duyon from Latin America and the Caribbean, Regional Studies, will present Fleeing a Nation on the Brink, Haitian Migration in the First Quarter of the 21st Century.
Thank you, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. You've probably heard that there are thousands of Haitians arriving in the US in the recent years. Some experts will call it a refugee crisis. Some politicians and extremists have called it a migrant invasion. But in reality, it's far more complex. Most of those people are actually fleeing a country that is collapsing under the weight of violence, state failure, and foreign intervention. Usually when we talk about migration from Haiti to the US, most analysts, they will try to use push-pull theory. It's very simple. They will focus on the factors they think attract people to the US. They call them pull factors, such as better economic opportunities, family reunion, or they will focus on the push factors, factors in Haiti, just like the word say, that are pushing people to leave. It will be things like poverty, insecurity. It is far more complex, and I was really interested in digging deeper into it. There is one question that few people ask. Haiti and the US have a long-standing relationship. What has the US done in Haiti? What role have they played that may have created or worsened the condition that push people to leave? This is what I chose to focus on my thesis. And to do that, I used different theories. Not that the push and pull theory is bad, it's just not enough. I used the migration system theory. What it does, it highlights how historical ties, like the complicated history between Haiti and the US, structural dynamics, how those things interact and create migration. But it's not enough, because people exist, they have agency. They don't just move because things are wrong, they are bad. They have agency. This means that we need better framework. I use another one to complete it. It's called the aspiration and capabilities framework. It's very simple. Aspiration, what people want for their life, where they want to live, and also capability, what they are able to achieve. And then I focus on 2000 and 2025 because I think it's a great case study to understand how migration operates. And I do historical analysis and process tracing. What I do is I do a complicated work. I use newspaper, report, research study, and I map how critical moment in US engagement in Haiti correspond with spike in migration. Literally, there are moments when the US intervene, and whether to backing elections that are contested or supporting political parties that are not working in favor of the people, and then those create instability, and then people leave. This is what I do, and this is what I found, and it's important because it shows us that migration isn't just something that happened there that we need to deal with here. It's a cycle, and it's a cycle that we need to break with better policy. Thank you.
Si Yu Hua from Sociology will share Tears in Rain, Liminal Spaces During Human-Robot Interactions in Science Fiction Films from the 1960s to the 2000s.
Have you ever considered how robot technology is going to change our human future? I asked ChatGPT last night, how many times have you been asked if robots will replace humans one day? The intelligent chatbot took a huge sigh and told me, oh, so many times. However, instead of discussing the replacement issue, my research trying to think out a more fundamental question. What's the social status of robots, and what ethical dilemmas they're gonna bring when they're located in different positions? Are they just instruments or our new social members? Existing studies robot ethics mainly focus on some regulation principles, such as transparency and accountability. However, those big words principles downplay the significance of context, so I shift my research field to science fiction films. My overarching research question examined the social status of robots in different films and its relation to emerging ethical dilemmas. I applied content analysis method and collected data by coding film scene on 2 different levels: the ethical dilemmas on the interactional level and the social status of robots on the systematic levels. Scholars consider science fiction films can be considered as an ethical laboratory wherein people can play and test different human-robot relations. My research was to identify 3 different patterns. The first one is robots as tools, so people who use that can fully control that. And the second pattern is fictional robot doomsday myths. That's the reversal of human-robot relations, like the film The Matrix. And the middle pattern is the one identified with the most complicated ethical dilemmas. And that's also the pattern that is highly consistent with our current situation in reality. That's robots as agents in our social networks. They become our friends, colleagues, co-workers, even the friends. So that's a film from the Robot Cop and the Space Odyssey. The middle pattern lets us know when we're talking about human-robot interactions, we are not just interacting with an isolated technology, but with a huge social systems. And humans are also changing during the process. The interaction is a negotiation outcome with a bunch of social actors, such as robot designers, technology companies, and also the legal system. Just like the microphone here, it's not robot, but similar logic. I'm the person who directly interacting and using the artifact. But the successful operation can be traced back to the association with electricity system in the New York City. So considering robots as the social agents, not just the tools, can help us identify the social status of robots and also those invisible but essential associations. That's robot regulations should start from to address the ethical dilemmas in human-robot interaction. Thank you.
Kimberly Schneiders from Global Thought will present Entrepreneurship as Freedom, Interrogating the Role of Entrepreneurship as a Tool to Advance Gender Equality in International Development.
Please raise your hand if you feel gender equality is backsliding. And you're right. According to the UN, 1 in 4 countries reported the backsliding of women's rights in 2024. What many scholars and policymakers rather fail to do is to ask women about their needs. My name is Kimberly, and I was raised by my Ugandan single mother who provided me with economic security through entrepreneurship. Growing up, I saw how women in Uganda run the economy as shop owners, farmers, and hairdressers. Yet I wondered, why do so many women still fail to achieve economic independence? On the quest to empower women entrepreneurs from the Global South, I decided to write my master's research on Ghanaian women micro-entrepreneurs. In my research, I make use of the stories of women entrepreneurs in 15 different research papers and news articles. And I chose to focus on Ghana because, did you know, Africa has the highest rate of women entrepreneurs in the world, and Ghana ranks first globally? I chose to focus on the stories of women because I wanted to see how their experiences challenge 2 dominant ideas in international development. The first idea underestimates women's agency and is pushed by academia. Traditional research claims that women in the Global South start businesses because they're unable to find a job. Women's stories reveal a different truth. Women start businesses because it allows them to combine their work with taking care of children more flexibly. It gives them a sense of personal fulfillment, and it allows them to assert their independence within their household. The second idea I found overestimates women's agency, on the other hand, and is pushed by governments such as the United States and the Netherlands. These governments promise to fund women-owned enterprises and present entrepreneurship as a silver bullet for issues such as climate change, healthcare, and gender equality. They promote entrepreneurship because they want to justify their defunding of international development projects and gender equality in particular. In doing so, they put the burden of combating an unjust system onto the shoulders of women themselves. My research shows, and is comparable to case studies from Malaysia to the United States, and highlights that women entrepreneurs globally are hurt by narratives that exclude their lived experiences. The only way to continue to stop the backsliding of women's rights is to truly center their lived experiences in decision-making and to embrace women's agency to create a life that they desire. Thank you.
As we announce the winners of the 2025 GSAS Masters SynThesis competition. Woo! Okay. So we're going to start with today's Audience Choice Award for Best Slide. And that is Kimberly Schneider's. For Best Communication, that goes to Danny Pergola. And our most innovative is Siyu Hua. Okay, now it's time to announce the official winners as determined by our judging panel. Thank you, judges, to wherever you are. And thank you again for making some very difficult decisions, judges. So coming in third place from the Quantitative Methods and Social Sciences is Peter Silverstein. Okay, our second place winner from the Quantitative Methods and Social Sciences is Teresa Mondria Toro. And finally, it is my pleasure to congratulate our first place winner of the 2025 GSAS Masters SynThesis competition, Kimberly Schneiders from Global Thought.